And this is such a casual conversation. So, look, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody that's watching and that will be watching subsequently. This is the Neurodiversity Matters stream from the Neurodiversity Club. This is our space to talk about everything and anything to do with neurodiversity mental health. I am absolutely delighted to be joined by two incredible individuals, Sarah Restel from an organisation called Wellbeing with Kari, and Paneet Singh, who is from an organisation called Start, and has got a fascinating story to tell. So we had a request from someone to talk about the well-being solutions within corporate environments, which I think we can have a great discussion around. I'm very, very keen to touch on the Great Diagnosis, which is absolutely delighting me at the moment. And Pani, I profess to know everything and anything about neurodiversity and mental health. Then I met you, and I went, I don't know everything and anything because, I'll be brutally honest. Shame on me. I never kind of badged speech disabilities into mental health neurodiversity, but of course it is, right? So you're going to teach me a lesson today, and I'm absolutely thrilled with that. So welcome. I hope you're all well. Sarah, how are you doing?
I am really good, thank you. It is a beautiful day here. I'm dialing in from Margate in the UK, and the sun is shining. There's not a cloud in the sky, so it lifts my spirits.
Fantastic. And Paneet, yeah, I tell you, we had a chat beforehand, didn't we? You're putting us all to shame with the weather that you're having at the moment. We've been sub-zero for I don't know 3 or 4 days now, and it's going to continue. And we're all freezing cold. Paneet, where are you dialing in from?
Thank you so much for having me. I am talking from Delhi, India, and I would like to say namaste to all the viewers and to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Paneet. And you said it was 8 degrees out there, and we would take eight
Yes, yes.
degrees. Like, and you were kind of saying, it's only 8 degrees. We're like, we would love 8 degrees right now. So thank you for joining, guys. It's an absolute pleasure. So let's tuck into it. We've got however long we've got and want to talk about these things. And if you're okay with this, I want to sort of like zoom in first on the Great Diagnosis because I and like you are absolutely thrilled that there's so many people that are feeling comfortable enough to open up and talk about their life experiences, their relationship with different mental health conditions and experiences. And it's just fascinating that LinkedIn and social media is awash with super courageous individuals talking about their human reality, which is giving other people the opportunity to think, okay, this is a common conversation. It's okay, and then obviously taking that big step to go and talk to the medical profession, and getting on that journey. So I'm just so blown away by this, and I just wonder what your thoughts were. If I can come to you, Sarah, first, what are you feeling out there, and how are you feeling about it?
Well, my background of working in mental health is quite specific to working with cultural change, and that's what you're talking about is cultural change. And 10 years ago, when I first joined Mind, which is a UK charity, it's the UK's leading mental health charity, and I joined the workplace wellbeing team to work on a campaign called Time to Change. And Time to Change was a campaign that was dedicated to tackling the stigma attached to speaking about mental health problems. So back then, the stat on the media and the streets was 1 in 4 people experience poor mental health, right? 5 or 6 years later, when they were doing those stats again, and that this is UK statistics, they were able to change the language to 1 in 4 people is diagnosed with a mental health problem. And
Awesome.
even though the number is still 1 in 4, the significance of that statement really harks into your great diagnosis. Through campaigning and through government legislation, through education in schools, through senior leaders stepping up and speaking openly, through actors talking about mental health, there was a sea change, a movement in the culture of how we speak about mental health, and that it was able to not entirely be a situation where everybody feels safe to talk, but become more of a safe, encouraged place to talk before someone hits crisis point. And when you address the stigma and you take away that feeling that, and stigma literally translates in Latin, comes from the word stigmata, which means mark of disgrace. So when you take away that idea that you will be in disgrace if you talk about your poor mental health, and you cultivate an environment where it's safe to do so, you get people who are able to go, actually, I've not been feeling very well for a long time, or there's something that I'm not quite coping with. And they know that they're safe to go and speak to a doctor, a GP ideally, who can signpost them towards additional help. Or if they're in a workplace that has an employee assistance program, or in the UK, we have loads of mental health support already in place in most organizations. But creating an environment where people feel like it's safe to reach out and speak openly creates an environment where they're able to get a diagnosis.
Yeah, look, you make such a great point there. So, yeah, we're living in a time now where you got a really bad continuous stomach ache, right? You ring whatever 111 in the UK. Paneet, what was the resources have you got out there? You go to the doctor and say, I'm really struggling with this, and they go, okay, now people are just so aware that what mental health conditions, what challenges people are experiencing, they're noticing it in themselves, and they're just comfortable to reach out and go to a profession that gets it. Paneet, what's your view? What do you kind of feel around this area?
I think Sarah raised a very important point because my relationship with diagnosis has been very problematic. I started
Okay,
my organization in January 2022.
right.
So then when I come to like being active on LinkedIn and being active with the people from the disability community and from the individuals who identify themselves as neurodivergent, I got that confidence, and then I said that okay, when I was reading about the dyspraxia, I realized that these symptoms are very close to what I face into my day-to-day life. So
Yeah.
actually, then I gathered the courage to go to a professional and ask for like I want to diagnose my condition. So it's a very critical thing that you are talking about right now, and I'm happy. I'm one of the beneficiary of this movement.
That's incredible to hear. And of course, the world has gone through the pandemic, which has, and I don't want to be that one that keeps on harping back to the pandemic and keep it going. But I personally believe that the pandemic kind of grew another pandemic of mental health challenges.
Yeah.
Now, I suffered severely from the pandemic, where my life was changed. I was locked away. I had all my liberties taken away, etc., etc. I lost my stage, and I had the worst bout of OCD I'd ever experienced, and thankfully got back from that. So every time I talk to, I know a few doctors and I know some people in that profession, and people that they're saying that the biggest issue that they're dealing with at the moment is mental health conditions, especially in children. I'm actually helping two young teenagers, directly with challenges that they're having, certainly around OCD, because it's a tough time of the year for people at college with mocks and things coming up. But that whole impact of the pandemic has made everybody that is maybe going to experience something in their life. We talked about the 1 in 4. If there was ever, I hate to say it, if there was ever a more perfect storm, it's as a consequence of all that change and all of that pressure and all of that concern and all that negative media. So it's made it essential for some people to reach out to doctors. It's made it essential for the health profession to be equipped and know about this, and but that's kind of a bit of a worry, right? Because the resources aren't there, and that frightens me. What's your thought around that and the difficult? We want to encourage people to get a diagnosis, but the difficulty surrounding getting a diagnosis because it's such a big thing. Any thoughts on that, guys?
I think it's really awesome to have Pani here, because there's globally it changes. I work with a lot of global, so in my job I work with organizations to support mental health strategies and to look at how organizations can do their part in delivering healthy workplaces to support people with mental health problems, but also people to keep their resilience up if they're not experiencing poor mental health. So it's for all people. And while we work globally, I think that there is a disparity across the globe. So some countries we work with have got great services. The US has great services, but only if you have insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and also the US is great for access or that stigma piece, because everybody's had a therapist since the 70s. It's the subject of most movies is what therapy are you getting? You look at The Sopranos, like it's very talked about, but your access to it is only if you've got the insurance to do so or money. Then you've got countries like New Zealand, and she says from New Zealand, but New Zealand, which is at the forefront of the Mental Health and Wellbeing Global Alliance. You've got Sweden and Denmark, Finland. You've got places that are really focusing on really good working environments to promote good mental health. And the UK as well. And like you were talking about resources, but different countries run in different ways and have different kinds of support there. So I can talk to the cows come home about the support that I know that the UK offers, but we have the NHS. You can walk into your GP and get referred. You don't need to have anything to get help and support here, thank goodness. But I'm curious to know what kind of services there are in India that promote people being able to access health services in general, and people being able to, are they relying more on their workplaces to provide this kind of thing, or is it something that you can access from somewhere else?
Uh, Sarah, I think the situation is improving. I see a lot of awareness that is coming, but I think there is a lot of scope of more like people normalizing the discussion. Like it's still towards like a little bit of that, oh, once again someone is talking about mental health. Like it's just being like people are like dismissive
Mm,
about it if someone is talking about it, but from the government and from the corporate they are trying. I see some initiatives where people have, or people from the government have come on, and they have talked about that these things are part of our lives, and it was always there, but we never have that courage to actually come through it. So like from my limited experience, when I started my organization, people were very critical about me, that are you a speech therapist, like are you
yeah.
providing these kind of support as well? So I said no, I'm not qualified as a speech therapist or a mental health counselor, but what we are providing, we are providing a community. And if we see someone like whose situation, whose condition is up to some kind of I would say problematic, I will refer them to seek professional help. So our model, our operation is like we have that community in place. We have some workshops where we play, we dance, we do all kind of creative activities. But after that extent, we refer that person to seek professional help, and that is really important to actually normalize going to the counselor, going to the psychotherapist or psychiatrist to seek help.
Mm. I love this. I love this because this is the first. So often when I'm working with an organization that say doesn't have very much budget, and one of the first questions is what are the things that I can do that aren't going to cost me money that will make the most impact. And I knuckle it down to two. I mean, there's many things that organizations can do, but the things that have the most impact is number one, senior leadership buy-in. So if you have in an organization senior leadership buy-in, then that helps that culture. But the number two one, which is why I love what you've just said, is it's about peer support and it's about building a community, because actually that grassroots movement and that knowing that other people are out there experiencing something similar to you, that's a phenomenal feeling. I think isolation and this, I'm sure Colin, you've got a lot to say on this, but feeling isolated is or feeling alone is
Loneliness,
the
yeah.
number one worst part, I feel, about sort of experiencing poor mental health. Feeling like you're experiencing something that nobody else has, feeling strange or alone, isolated, like you can't talk about it. So I mean, I
Mm.
just love what you're doing.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, look, for someone with OCD, it's. I'm not going to say, hey, we're special when it's even worse, but because we have such terrible, severe emotions and reactions to thoughts that we believe might be true. Sometimes these are criminal thoughts, murderous thoughts. It's not just a case of the stigma of maybe being mentally ill that you don't want to talk to someone about. It used to be you didn't want to go to the doctor to say that I'm having these thoughts that I might be capable of killing somebody, because you actually then think you could be treated as a criminal. And unfortunately, historically, there are situations where I think it was in the US where someone had presented with the murderous thoughts they were having to the GP. They were then promptly arrested as a consequence of that, and went through the judiciary system, which again is, we're talking a few years back, thankfully, but that was also one of the reasons why people didn't necessarily want to come forward, because of the symptoms that they were experiencing, and what people might judge them for having that situation. And I think what we've basically nailed here is this great diagnosis is being driven by us. Now, we have all had and have a relationship with an experience with mental health and obviously neurodiversity, and we are open. Yeah, we're technically thought leaders, like properly thought leaders, because this is all around neurodiversity. So we're out there and we're saying, hey, it's okay, and this is me, and I've done this, and we're talking and we're sharing, and people are looking at that and going, oh, wow, okay, it is normal then to have these situations. I can go to the doctor, but they can also come to us. They can come to whatever we're doing. I support people individually. I support groups around all these areas. And I'm exactly the same as you, Panit. I've got a 10-step process. It's all over LinkedIn. I'm not going to go through it one by one again, but basically the first one is go to the doctor, get yourself diagnosed. Second one is, if they recommend medications, take them. Go through the side effects, because when you do, you actually start to see the benefit. And if they recommend therapy, go to the therapy, because it is an optimal way of recovering from your situation. And believe the therapist, don't believe your brain, because your brain tells you that, oh, I'm not going to do that, it's too scary. You're the patient, remember. And they're the experts. And so us as thought leaders, us as champions for neurodiversity and mental health, I think we're all the same. We've kind of got the answer. We've been through it ourselves, but we're very careful to point people to those that are fully trained and have the expertise and have the accreditation to take care of that. And then we can be that community, and we can recommend the other things that help us, like getting physically fit, cutting down on alcohol, sleeping well, all of that stuff. Again, that you'll learn that through the medical profession and the therapeutic profession, but we've learned that, and it's safe for us to say that, whereas we won't necessarily go into the territory of starting to give people CBT and ELP lessons, etc.
Yeah, or imagine I do think there's a problem. There's a prevalence with lots of mental health literacy training, sort of taking a 2-day course in understanding mental health problems, or doing like lots of reading online or Googling. I often start lots of my conversations or public speaking with, I am not a psychologist. I am an expert in cultural change in workplaces. It's the same as being able to say, like a health and safety expert, I am not a builder, but I'm an expert in being able to signpost towards the kind of builders you'll need to talk to. And I really feel very strongly that expert advice, professional advice, it's hard won. We're talking 6 years of training and thinking or more. We've got people with 20 years experience as therapists, and they should be listened to. I'm personally, I am less on the fence. I'm a bit more on the fence with medications than you. I think if a doctor or a GP or a psychiatrist says take medication, and I just want to share my own personal experience with this, because it might help someone out there. But when I was first diagnosed with a mental health problem, I was having severe anxiety attacks that were quite debilitating. They impacted on my behaviors, but also on my ability to do anything at all that you're supposed to do, like get off
Yeah.
the couch or whatever. And when
Thanks
I
for
finally,
sharing, Sarah. Thank you.
oh, that's all right. But when I went to see the doctor said, put me on a course of medication. And I had a great doctor. And what was important about this conversation is she said, here are some medications, take these. Take these for 6 weeks and keep calling me. Every 2 weeks, we're going to have a phone call about how you're feeling. But even if you're feeling terrible, we're going to try it for 6 weeks. You
Amazing.
might feel really bad with the side effects, but try it for 6 weeks. Now, after the 6 weeks, I continued to feel bad. And we changed the medication and found the right one for me. And now I'm not medicated at all. But I think the important thing about that is that I listened to an expert and the expert listened to me and we did it together. And I think that's the kind of relationship that you want with your
Yeah.
medical expert. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the situation for you, Puneet, in India and in your sphere of expertise? Medication, is that something that will get prescribed, and how are people getting on with their meds? And are they having different difficulties as a consequence of that?
Uh, I I think we are just starting on that because the community that I come from, it's a kind of a very low income area. So
Right.
it's like it's pretty like we are opening up to these options, and it's pretty much like you are not calling. Uh, a person who is going through certain kind of mental health issues to be like to be mad or crazy. It's like it's the first thing that we are doing in the community. And last year when I lost my father, I seek support for the first time. And I was thinking that I am pretty much like in like pretty much aware, but I also have that feeling that what if uh, uh, the uh, the counselor will share my personal stuff with some other people. So then I come to know
Mm.
that confidentiality and maintaining the privacy is one of the core value of all these professions. So I think I was not aware of that. So once I'm like keep informing my people about it, that once like, if you share something, it's going to be within that
Mm.
person only, and these are for your health. These are not like this is
Yeah.
not going to be like you should not feel vulnerable or anything about it. Be secure and safe about it, because your personal info is your. No one is
Yeah.
going to evade that. And that was
Yeah.
really important because some of the people really find it helpful, because we wanted to share our personal stuff because we will feel light about it, but still like something is stopping us to share all of these things. So like we are going step by step and baby steps, I would say.
Brilliant. Well, that's fantastic. Look, and obviously, yeah, access to medication across the globe will differ based on all these territories, and it's a fascinating one. So I had a kind of the reverse situation to you initially, Sarah, where when I was again, I put this publicly all over the place, I'm okay to share it, but I was diagnosed very late. Actually, my issues OCD started at 10, but it was 26, I think it was, when I was actually diagnosed with OCD. Before that, they thought it was generalized anxiety disorder. So I wasn't necessarily given the best advice and treatment. But when they said, right, start taking this medication, I was on one called Seroxat, and after 6 to 8 weeks, I had all kinds of different challenges with it. One of them was it made me impotent, which was, not a great thing anyway. But on top of mental health conditions at 26, that's I was in a bad place. But it wasn't explained to me that that might be a potential symptom of it. I was told, take these, see how you get on, and you have a big pamphlet, don't you, in the drugs to kind of read through War and Peace or what the symptoms might be, and maybe I didn't at 26, and so I just was totally anti-meds. However, I had a great doctor. Um, this well, I think it's the seventh time round when I've had major issues, but and just stick with it. Talk to me. Any problems? Let's have a chat. And I ultimately stuck with them, a completely different drug, Prozac, fluoxetine, and like you. by chance, I think I found the perfect medication for me.
Yeah.
So, and it went the right way. Yeah, it wasn't great for the first 5 to 6 weeks, but then it kicked in, and I managed to then use my CBTs and etc. on it. So, no, that's fantastic. And, look, we've digressed, and that's what this is about. It's about having this whole kind of healthy kind of conversation about stuff, and it's always going to go into some incredible areas. But I think an incredible area that I'm just so excited to learn about, Paneet, is you. I mean, I've obviously read your background, and I thought I had challenges growing up and through my life, and then I read your story, which is it's just heartwarming, and it's incredible what you do. So, would you mind taking a few minutes to talk to us about your background, and what you do, and what you do for other people? Because I think it's going to be enlightening.
So I was born in a slum of Delhi called Sangam Vihar, and so it was uh, my father was abusive. So we like me and my mom have gone through a lot of violence and abuse. So like around that age, I developed stammer,
Mm,
and I was facing bullying, domestic violence, and poverty both at the same time, which was really challenging for me. And but through the willpower of my mom, and I also showed a great resistance to all of these difficulties. I was able to get good education, and then I was working in Royal Bank of Scotland after like years back, and it was like it can be a dream for someone. But when I was trying to host a team meeting, my manager doesn't allow me to do that because I stammer. So that was the moment I realized that it's enough, because I was thinking that I have been grown out of that stammer because of my education, or whatever. But I think the society is pretty much the same. Being a slum or being a corporate, it doesn't change the outlook towards speech difficulties. And then I started that I have this plan in my mind to start my own organization, to actually start a conversations around stammering, and to actually stammer in the public. So we designed a lot of programs and workshops around it. And we have got some youngsters who are going through similar challenges. And a lot of people say that that I want to have that fixed. Like this mentality is still there. They want a magic pill from me, which I don't have. So I just say that that it's just a difference. It's not a kind of it's not a deficiency. It's just a difference. We are adding to the diversity of in our communication. And
mm,
we like it's simply to be embarrassed, uh like because once I tried to enjoy my stamina, it was so good. I was literally like the kind of energy that goes through in stamping. It's enormous. Like I think that's the way of respecting the other person, that I'm really careful about your time, and I really want to like give you the best time. So we stammer like in this kind of energy and passion. So I think when people listen to that kind of perspective, they think for a second, and that's what we want to do. Like all of these
mm,
workshops that I do. So there are organizations that are working with uh, with people with stammering, but actually what they do, they isolate the youngsters, they isolate the people, and they don't provide the real platform. So this is
right.
what we comes in. We have lot of diversity in our participants. So there are some people who stammer, some have a lisp, some are like totally like typical in their communication. So there's a diversity. And then then this is the world, right? So the world is having a lot of diversity, so we are trying to bring that diversity into our center, so that when they go out, they doesn't feel like attacked or triggered,
Mm.
and they have that self confidence, that even if someone is laughing, they can question that it is completely fine to stammer.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, there is an organization called Stigma in UK, who really like helped me to like frame that that question, frame that workshops that we conduct. And right now, my next project will be a project about listening. So we are trying to build, uh, trying to collaborate with other artists from the indigenous, marginalized, black, and like a lot of black people from across the globe to write an ebook and an audiobook in different kind of voices and accents and everything. Like we are bringing the diversity into one ebook. So that's my dream, to actually people can listen to an audiobook where they feel challenged, like where the people are lisping, where people are having different accents, because like we feel like if someone is talking a different accent, like we sometimes like feel like what he or she is trying to say. So like my quest, my project is to challenge people's belief, and to bring in that diversity that we always talk about, because we talk a lot but we do little less about diversity.
Sarah, you're itching to talk. I know. Go
No,
for
no,
it. Ask away.
I'm not, I'm listening. I'm not. It's a real. It's such a privilege to be here and with people. I mean, we love our own bubbles. We love to listen to people that echo back to us our values and thoughts. Um, yeah, I love that. I love listening to, and I totally agree with it. And I think
Mm.
that, so one thing that I really noticed, I used to be a high school teacher, and in New Zealand, we would have children with different abilities or with additional needs would be mainstreamed into our classes. It's very normal, and that was just a normal way of being. When I got to the UK, and I was teaching, I sort of realized that they would call them the unit kids or something, like children with additional needs weren't mainstreamed into classes. And I had a
Mm.
real problem with that because, I mean, I'm not the boss of education, but so I'm going to talk personally. I don't have an ethical problem. I don't have a bone to pick, but my personal thought process on it was that having children or teenagers with additional needs in the same class as children that are considered sort of typical or typical behaviors serves several purposes. One of them is that these young people exist in a world, so with these young people with additional needs exist in a world with people who find other things sort of seemingly effortless. So it's good to sort of, from their perspective, to be involved in a community and to kind of understand how lots of different things work. But the other side to it was where it was really good for the sort of like the kids without additional needs to understand that the world is different and that sometimes we have to do different things. And I just had this like real memory of these in one of my classes, these cool girls, right? The cool girls. They were gorgeous, smart, funny, confident, sort of the world at their fingertips. And they sat at the same table as one of my kids, He-Wan, who was non-verbal autistic and also from Korea, so English in general, although non-verbal was his second language. And the way that because of the way that New Zealand was and school was, that wasn't unusual. That's not an unusual sight to see the cool girls sort of like slowing down some of their conversation to make sure that they're including He-Wan, or to show support of there's just something in this that the world is diverse. We cannot escape it. You cannot just shut people inside or away and pretend that different people don't exist so that a 60% majority can go about their lives not knowing anything different. I don't know. I love what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. You're a force for good, Benit. You're an inspiration as well, because it must be so difficult for, because I'm talking about OCD and anxieties and stuff, which you would class as hidden disabilities. And don't get me started on the hidden thing, because if you've got a hidden disability, it's because you hide it, right? And we want to try and get people to be open about it. But what you're talking about with speech disabilities, they're not hidden. They're overt, and people can see that. And I remember people at school when I was a kid that would take the Mickey, would tease people because they had these differences. So I totally get what you're saying, Sarah. And it's like cultural, where people are together and they learn from day one that difference is great, and difference is normal, which is a really
Yeah.
weird thing to say. But in other environments, it's difference is seen as something that is a weakness. But what you're doing, Puneet, is giving people a platform, giving people an opportunity to find others and look at others, experience and build relationships with others that share the similar journey and similar condition, to then have that comfort to go, I've got that comfort bubble. And then I can either talk about it, and I know I can perform. And that's then changing the mindset of other people. So it's absolutely incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible. So I've just had a little pop up here about the session is going to wrap up in about 5 minutes, which is interesting, because when I was talking to my tech people, they said it's going to last for 60 minutes when I set the thing live. So maybe I set the wrong channel live. Who knows? But I think we've had an amazing conversation so far, and I think let's spend a bit of time just talking about what corporates are doing. And Puneet, you'll be obviously working with corporates to try and amplify what you're doing, as Sarah, I know you are, and obviously I am as well. So very quickly, let's come back to you, Sarah. What are you experiencing in the corporate world now to maybe what you were experiencing when you came into this? What's changing, and what's delighting you?
I think one of the major changes that I'm really pleased about is the honoring the importance of the role of nurturing employees. So 10 years ago, you'd have HR and learning and development, and somebody in HR would also be responsible for diversity and inclusion, and they wouldn't even use the word equity in there. And they would also be responsible for payroll, and they'd also be responsible for delivering well-being. So what I'm seeing now that's delighting me is that the last 10 years, especially in the UK, has seen a prevalence of people being employed to do that, to nurture that role. So some corporates, if it's a big corporate I'll work with, they'll have a learning and development sort of team. They'll have a head of well-being, they'll have a head of HR, they'll have a head of OC health, and they'll have the head of health and safety. And all of these people are there to take care of the humans in order to increase the profitability of the business. And it's that understanding that there is a return on investment when you invest in your human beings. So that is a trend that I'm seeing with bigger organizations, that they're actually saying, oh, there's a place for this. And more than just a place, when we focus on having a diverse workforce, when we focus on supporting the well-being of our workforce, we make more money. So there's not just a place. That's a return. That's a direct return on investment. It's like a company that has upgraded from typewriters to like internet and Macs and laptops
Yeah.
and so forth. And or instead of saying, okay, well, yes, but we only post our letters of communication, and upgrading to telephones. Like, when you take care of your resources, it makes you money. And I love that.
Yeah. No, look, my world is talent acquisition, and the exact same situation. If you do it right, people fall in love with your organization. People then say great things about your organization. We're all connected. It's
Yeah.
a talent acquisition foundation to have your people say how awesome you are as an organization to the people that they know and love, that will then flock to your organization. And I had a conversation with someone about some of those tech businesses that have let people go quite poorly, let's say, over text messages and stuff like that. And they said, yeah, they're never going to recruit again. And I said, well, they are actually, but they're going to recruit people that maybe aren't the best people out there in the world, that are happy to maybe go into an environment where they could be, booted out on a heartbeat and treated poorly. So, that rings so true. Paneet, we've got about a minute left. So,
Yeah.
in your world, in where you're immersed in, what are corporates doing, and how are you excited about what they're up to?
I will be little rude here because lot of companies from UK and US, they made sure that everything is fine there in their countries, but when it comes to India, when they are not doing that much. And I would like to request them that please take care and have that, have that compliances in place, because there are a lot of scope to do. And I received a lot of messages on LinkedIn that someone was fired because of their disability.
Mm.
Wow.
And it is happening in India, and the laws that are applicable in US and UK are not applicable in India, so they are using that loopholes. And
Yeah.
also with a very big company, they approached me to talk about stammering and to